The Timber Evolution versus the Twin Timber. Which one is best for you? Skip to the conveniently placed chapters so you can get right to the point and see what you want to see.
Check it out, YouTube. Today we're going to be comparing the E-flite Turbo Timber Evolution versus the Twin Timber that just came out recently. Of course, I pointed at the wrong plane. Don't old me. One quick note to mention with the TTE over here. If you followed my setup guide with it, you know that I've changed all the servos out to AGFRC servos. Well, the nice thing about the servos that are on the TTE now is that they are actually about the same quality as the ones that come stock with the Twin Timber. So this is actually a really good comparison between the two. Another change that was made to the TTE is that it runs a 13x4 propeller instead of an 11x7 three-blade propeller. So that was another change that was made to give it a little bit more low-end thrust. Propeller choice kind of makes it not stock. Servo's choice definitely makes it not stock either. But they're going to be a good comparison of the two airframes, so you guys can get an idea of how they're going to handle. This one is bone stock. Never saw a reason to change the servos. They're really good quality now. On this one, I definitely felt like I wanted to change the servos out to get the same speed and precision that I get out of the ones with the Twin Timber. Should say a lot that you guys know me well enough to know that, like, if I say these things are good, they're good. Absolutely good. So let's go ahead and get these things up and then show you guys what they're both capable of doing. All right, one of the things I forgot to do was show you guys that this is running on a Spektrum 2250C pack. So we're just gonna go ahead and pop it open. You can see inside of here, 2200 battery. Popping it back on, 3, 2, 1. It is very windy today, but we're still gonna try to have some fun with this bugger. One of the other mods I did to it too, if you can see in the setup video that I've shown you and linked already by this point, is that we have Crow, which is flaps down and ailerons up, and full span flaps, which is a very similar, if not identical, setup to the Twin Timber behind my wife over there. So we're gonna go ahead and get her set up, ready to go. Let's go down there and take off with the wind. Now this TTE is really, really good, man. But the thing that's different about this one versus the the Twin Timber is that the Evo is a little bit easier to throw around because it's so lightweight. And there's some maneuvers that you can do with the TTE that you can't do with the Evo or the Twin Timber. I'm gonna get tongue-tied this whole time. Oh, I had the gyro gains too high. There we go. That was why I was waggling the tail. So essentially, they're both amazing airframes. They can both do nice, what do you want to call those, hammerheads. They can do hovering, but the TTE, in my opinion, does better hovering by far because it's a torque roller. It's designed for that level of fun, and its flat spins are way better too. I would flat spin a little bit further, but there's trees directly underneath it, so we'll keep pushing the limits with it. On the TTE, I do feel that the best battery is the 2200. On the Twin Timber, I feel that the 3200 is a good sweet spot between performance and whatnot. Let's go ahead and get it into a quick hover. Use snap flaps. This is much easier to do on the Evo. I haven't hovered this thing in a while since I'm trying to remember how to do it. There we go. Every plane's a little different. Once you get them in though, they usually stay in place. We'll get better hovers in a little bit. Beyond all of that, one of the major issues between the Twin Timber and the Evo is the addition of much better gear springs on the Twin Timber. And that was one of the major selling points for it too. So that's, if you're looking for a more robust system, the Twin Timber is gonna fit the bill. And it's probably, to be honest with you, a little bit easier to fly because of it. Do I love Timbers in general? Absolutely. They're friggin' awesome platforms to fly with. Snap roll. Especially the Evo, it's a little bit lighter, so it can be pushed around a bit more. I mean, you can't do knife edge spins, for example, with the Twin Timber, at least not any way I've seen. And this is one of my favorite moves. Let go of the elevator pressure, get it to stay inverted, there we go. You can throw this thing around so well. And these Spektrum packs give it plenty of power. It also does knife edge really well too, whereas the Twin Timber does not do it like this. You can't get it to go high high beta knife edge, which is what, you know, beta is the side slip angle. You can't get the twin timber to get this angle without it being really weird. But the turbo timber Evolution here has no problem flying with a bit of elevator input. Look at it go.
14.3 volts.
Plenty of power left. It's a real aerobatic workhorse. It's not really designed to be one, but that's okay, you know, it's still fun to fly. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with it, like this little 3D routine, pseudo 3D that I'm doing. Let's say I have enough power to make it do the KE spin flip. So come up like this. It did have enough power. Woo! Got over my head, so I had to remember which directions were what. Let's try that again, because that's still one of my favorite moves to do with this plane. Go a little lower. Here we go, like this. Screwed it up. That's okay. Talking too much and not paying attention to what I'm doing. Let's get a nice long knife edge pass. Gonna use some elevator on this one to keep it in the pass. There we go. This one's a lot of fun. I love doing the knife edge passes with this. I wish the twin timber was as good at knife edge. You gotta work it. How much power we got?
14.3 volts.
Got enough to do a little bit of hovering still. So let's put it in the snap flaps, throttle up. There we go. Got her to settle. I'm gonna walk up to it. I might even grab it out of the air if I can get it to stabilize enough. Hovering is one of this plane's specialties in my opinion, especially on this 13x4 prop. Working it over to myself, trying to get it closer. There we go. Awesome. That's something I don't know if I'd want to do with the twin timber because, well, to be honest with you, it doesn't have the same level of control that the turbo does. But, whee, you're okay, dear. I ain't gonna hit you. But it's so much fun. All right, put it into a quick landing. We'll just do a 3-point with it. Well, almost hit myself too. Love timbers. If you guys can see, the way I'm flying this thing means I absolutely adore it. I mean, you can't get a better plane at the price point than this one, in my opinion. There are a lot of awesome planes out there, but not a whole lot of them do what the Turbo Timber Evolution does. This thing is a sweet upgrade to an already sweet airframe. One thing I will mention to you guys, I'm gonna have to have Liz focus a little bit on this one, is that over the year and a half of owning this plane, one of the things I've noticed as a long-term owner is that this point right here, these control horns on the ailerons do get weak over time. So what ends up happening is when you move them, there's a little bit of slack because they'll kind of vibrate and not vibrate, but like kind of like sway inside of there. So what you do is you just fill it up with CA glue and put a layer of it over here to hold it in place, and it won't go anywhere. It makes the slack completely go away, and whatever slack is in there comes from the servo arm at that point. You can add a little bit of CA glue right where it mounts there where my fingernail is, and that'll hold it in place. Both ailerons are like this after extensive flying and really pushing this thing to the limit. Eventually it does start to fail. That is one of the only things I've noticed, is that the linkages do eventually start to degrade because entropy is a thing. Over time, everything starts to fail. So just a little bit of spot checking your control horns will help you in the long run. But for now, we're gonna switch over to that twin timber over there, and then we're gonna show you guys what it can do next. So we do have the twin timber ready to go. Let's go ahead and just send it. But before we do that, I'm gonna show you guys, there's the full span flaps and the Crow, which again, for those of you guys who don't know what Crow is, it's flaps down with ailerons both pointing up. It's a really simple setup. If you guys watch the maiden flight for this plane, you've already seen the setup for it. Pretty easy to do. Took the slats off because I didn't like the way they performed for me. 3200 Spektrum pack. I forgot to show you guys, but trust me, that's what's in there.
15.20 seconds.
You can still throw this one around, do all sorts of cool stuff with it. It's not as aerobatic as the Turbo Timber is. But it does one thing that the Turbo Timber does not do, which is these Harrier passes using the up mixed flaps. So as I pull the elevator on switch F, I've got it set up so that the flaps go upward in response to the elevator movement. It stabilizes into a sweet
15.4.
Harrier. Look at it go. Very, very stable. Look at it hit the grass in a second. We're gonna go in that longer grass over there. There we go. This is something you cannot do with the Turbo Timber Evolution because the flaps cannot go upward to stabilize the wing rock. There we go. You try to do a Harrier with the Turbo Timber Evolution, you gotta be really good, or you gotta know how to stabilize it yourself with non-stop rudder action. You're not gonna get it to fly like this.
15.4
So
volts.
the Twinber, if you like doing Harriers, is a Harrier monster. I mean, look at it go. I'm barely doing a whole lot in the way of stick input here. Just a little bit of rudder input here and there.
Lap flat. Quick
And
hold.
it does hover, but it's not as good as the Turbo Timber. And it's also not as fast as the Turbo Timber either. But man, let me tell you, it's still fun to fly. Now I prefer the Crow setup to full span ailerons. Like, yeah, having that extra roll rate is nice, but it's not really needed when you can use the Crow to get so much more out of the airframe. Like, watch this. You go throw it into full Crow,
Full flaps.
flip it over, use full rudder to slip it down the whole way, and it will literally land just like this. Look at that. Look at how slow it comes in now.
15.2 volts.
It's getting affected by the wind right now too. We're gonna just plop it in. Hopefully plop it in, not my feet here. Look at that. That is something I would never do with a Turbo Timber because the wheels are, well, the gear aren't as robust as this one. But this one, I don't care, man. I'm just gonna send it. Woo! The gear springs on this one, I challenge somebody to destroy them. You're gonna have a hard time doing it. Flat spins are okay on this plane too. They're not as good as the TTE by far.
13.9 volts.
Takes a lot more work to get it in. It's also very nose heavy, as you can see, nose pointed down the whole time.
15.1 volts.
But it's still a fun airframe to fly. And it's much more beginner friendly too, because again, the gear respond to, you know, if you don't fly perfectly, you don't land perfectly, not everybody does. You're not gonna break the gear springs flying this plane. And it's still a robust airframe that can do a lot of cool stuff. Honestly, I don't really see much of a point to landing this in anything but grass. It's just better for that. Like, yeah, it can be done on pavement, but I'm literally hands off right now. We're gonna just let it kind of come in on its own and flare it at the last second. There we go. You gotta hold that nose down, or hold that nose up with elevator input in grass. Otherwise, it'll nose over. There we go. This grass is very long, and it shows you you can definitely fly out of it with the twin timber here. Now, knife edge is something that this plane can do, but you're not going to get that sweet high beta knife edge. Like, here we go. Here's almost full rudder. Like, you can get it, but it's not as nice as it is on the TTE, just because it doesn't have the requisite prop wash or prop flow, I think, over the rudder. The rudder's the same size, but this plane's also heavier. So the rudder has to work a little bit harder to keep the nose pointed up. Let's try another knife edge pass. I gotta be full rudder, almost full throttle right now. I cannot get it to go as slow or as stable.
15.1 volts.
Also, there's some wind right now too. That ain't helping it either. Is it a fun plane? Absolutely. Is it as aerobatic as the Timber Evo? No, unfortunately not, but that's okay. Not everything is gonna be the same. Every plane's got its own quirks. Is it fun to fly? Hell yeah, I love it. Let's bring it in with no flaps. Look at it just getting tossed around by turbulence.
15 volts.
Yeah, I cannot land this plane on concrete for the life of me. Like, it always bounces no matter what I do. It's a little bit more of a challenge to land if you're trying to do 2-point. This plane is better for like 3-point, or not 2-point. Wheel landings are more challenging than just tossing it into the grass. Like, look at this thing come in. Very stable, a little bit more stable in some ways than the Evolution is. Let's go ahead and flare it in from right here. Pretty sweet, huh? And the gear are fine. That's the other biggest difference between them that I keep mentioning to you guys, is that the gear are totally fine after these kinds of landings. I mean, if you guys have seen the other vids where I've just completely bottomed out those gear, I mean, they don't care. They're so well engineered. How much power do we have left? That's a good question. Apparently the screen recorder was not running the way I thought it was running, so you guys didn't get to see that, so we may not even use it. Still plenty of power left, so let's send it. Little one-wheel takeoff. Are they superb airframes? Absolutely. You really can't go wrong with a Timber, but this one is definitely better suited, in my opinion, for flying off of grass and whatnot. Like, I don't really like it too much for pavement. The Evolution is definitely better for pavement ops. If you do 3 points though, it's a little easier, because then it doesn't bounce. See what I'm saying? Take it right back up again. Whee! My one-wheel landings and takeoffs need to be a little bit better. The roll rate, however, on Twin Timber here is a little bit better, and by a little bit I mean significantly better by far. Do a full flap, just drop it into the ground, and then we'll go up and compare it a little bit more so you guys have another idea of what these two planes can do.
14.9 volts.
So we're back with the Turbo Timber Evolution, comparing these two planes, the Twin Timber and the Turbo Evo. I gotta say, between the two planes, this one is my personal favorite because it's a little bit more aerobatic and it does the kind of stuff that I want to do personally. But you know, that's not for everybody. Let's see if I can get it to take off really quick. Apparently I can, no problem.
20 seconds.
Man, I love this thing. Like, I love being able to do these torque rolls with the Timber. That is so much fun to me.
30 seconds.
If you like doing this kind of stuff, the Turbo Timber is definitely the choice that I'm gonna make for people, or not make, but just recommend to people, because it is a better plane for this kind of thing. It is much more easy to throw around. The single prop does a ton of work to keep the plane stable and aerobatic throughout the routine. I'm gonna do a knife edge pass down this taxiway, get it right in front of the camera as best I can, which is not apparently very good at all. It's just me in the distance here. I was hoping I could get it a little closer. Look how slow this thing goes in knife edge. Got a little caught by the wind there and just pushed out of it. Use snap flaps, you can really tighten the loops up too, which is a lot of fun. Let's go up and put it into a flat spin. As you saw earlier with the Twin Timber, the flat spin was not as good as it is with this thing. Look at this. Contrary aileron, look at how flat that is. Comes out of it almost instantly. Now with slats, it's a different game entirely. Both of these planes aren't using slats. And you know, you don't really need slats to go super slow. They just help a little bit. Like right now, you can see how slow I can go with the flaps, even with the wind a little bit. Let's turn it around. I'll show you the Harrier performance of this thing too, as soon as we get the plane turned around here.
Flaps up.
Yeah, there's not much Harriering involved in this plane because it's starting to wing rock like crazy, you see what I mean? I'm trying to make it Harrier by controlling it with the rudder. You gotta like dance with it constantly. This is not a Harriering plane.
Snap flaps. Wing normal.
But it is a little bit, you know, better in the regards that I care about. Now, one of the things that you can do with this plane is it does do inverted Harriers. I'm pretty sure the Twin Timber does too, but it feels a little bit more weird. You got to be used to your inverted stick controls. Like, you got to use rudder to turn it, and you also have to use a little bit of throttle. And if you use too much, it will actually flip out of it. So you got to be very careful with it. There we go. Try it again. It's easier to do with less wind, but it does do inverted Harriers, which you can turn into hovers. Love the torque rolls this thing can do. So much fun, so easy. All you need is a little bit of back elevator pressure and a willingness to experiment and have fun. It's a little bit easier to throw around, like I said. I mean, I'm gonna walk right out to it. Wind is definitely making this a lot harder than it needs to be. But look at how slow it goes in this high beta knife edge. So much fun, man. The rudder on this thing is so effective. I mean, I'm just saying I love this thing because I do. It's so powerful, so easy to fly, and just really kind of does whatever you tell it to do for the most part. Let's put it into an inverted pass right down the runway here. I'm gonna fly it right over my head, because why not? I'm actually gonna kneel, make it a little easier on myself in case something goes crazy. There we go. In case we encounter a wind shear or something, I don't want to give myself a haircut. There we go. A little easier to fly when I don't have to kneel and turn around at the same time. My back is thanking me for standing back up. Being tall has its advantages, but twisting around and stuff is not one of them. Now, I did show you guys the Crow on the other Timber, the Evo, or not Evo, but the Twinber. Here's what Crow looks like on the Evo. I actually like the way it flies like this. Look at it go. I will fly this in my cul-de-sac, surrounded by gigantic trees. Look at it come in. It's like with a little bit of a headwind, it almost stops because it's so lightweight. Scrapey. That's why I have red electrical tape on the wings. Woohoo! Stalled that one super hard. Yeah, you got to be careful with it. It can bite. It is a very heavy bush plane. It's not really marketed as a bush plane, but it is considered by most people to be one. Definitely one of my favorite planes to fly. I don't bring it out as much as I used to because I have so much stuff I have to fly for the channel, but I do like to get it in and practice like one wheels with it and whatnot. My flying looks better when it's not windy and when I'm not making excuses for the wind too. But this thing it's just so good, man. Like, it's hard to argue with Timbers being what they are. They're not very expensive in terms of, you know, RC planes.
13.9 volts.
Let's go up and do a really long knife edge spin with the clouds. One of my favorite moves ever, and just love being able to do it with a turbo Timber, you know? Some rudder to turn it around. I'm gonna bring it right over here. I'm gonna land it right at my feet. And I'm gonna give you guys the verdict after we fly the twin Timber one more time and tell you guys what I prefer between both of them, which is obvious, which is this one. Love this thing. I think I land it, what, within like 3 feet of myself, maybe 4, not too bad. Let's go ahead and swap to the twin Timbo and bring it back on up. Let's do a stall takeoff. Full deflected ailerons, away from everybody else, including myself. Whoa!
Oh, that was so close.
So close. When I pulled the flaps up, it was a little too early, and I just about dropped a Tootsie Roll in my boxers on that one. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Let me bring that in real quick and just tell you guys how stupid I am. There we go. Come on, baby. Come on. Love how you can just drop it. Don't do what I just did. If you're gonna do full span flaps, you need to have the ability to generate lift, which means you need thrust. If you drop the thrust, you ain't got no lift, the plane go blop. It die. It don't do good. That was the dumbest thing I've done in a while. I had full flaps, full deflected ailerons, which makes, they're kind of like droop, they're not one-to-one. That prevents it from stalling out as easily. That was the dumbest thing I have done in a long time, and just through quick reflexes. I've been playing Doom Eternal lately, and I have to be super lightning quick to play that game on ultra nightmare mode to actually live and not die in 3 seconds. I'll tell you that right now. One of the best things I can tell you, play Doom or some other first-person shooter and get good at it, because it translates. That reflex time translates. You saw me save that plane. Here we go. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it right this time. Well, that wasn't the plane's fault. That was actually the full span flaps. I didn't have enough elevator compensation, but let's take a look at it. I think the plane's fine. It just knocked the canopy off, smushed the nose a little bit. Nothing I can't fix and take right back up. It is not a big deal in the slightest. It just smushed the nose a little bit. A little bit of hot water will fix that. Super easy to fix. We're just gonna send it again. Let's go ahead and take that piece of foam that kind of popped off right quick, put it in my pocket for later, glue it back on, put the battery into it again. Let's not do that with full Span flaps again. There we go.
Much better.
Like full flaps is a bad idea. Half flaps is fine. Plane's totally fine though. Again, shows you how easy this plane can be to fix and adjust and whatnot. A little bit of hot water on that nose, it'll be like it never happened. They're model airplanes, guys. They're real planes, but they can take damage better than full-scale aircraft can. Anyway, back to the point. Twinbo is a great beginner's plane, and that's one of the reasons why, right there. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that was completely intentional, because it definitely was not. I thought I gave you a good aerodynamic explanation, and it turns out I'm just an idiot, which, you know, happens. But I will tell you, the plane flies just fine like it didn't even happen. You can't even see it in the air, and that's really where it matters. Let's give it a slow flap pass, and let's see if you guys can spot the smushed up slightly nose, because I can't see it right now, and I got 20/20 vision at age 39. Look at it come in. You cannot even see the damage. Okay, now I can kind of see it, but it's so minor. Like, really, if you guys are getting hung up about a little bit of damage in your plane, just don't worry about it, man. It's not a big deal.
Harrier flaps.
Not a big deal at all. They're just foam. You can easily fix foam. Again, so back to the point of Harriers and whatnot, one of the things I love about this plane is that it does do these stable Harriers so well. We're gonna bring it down. We're gonna fly it right over here, right down the taxiway. Wind gust. Come on, baby. Yeah, stable Harrier only applies when the wind isn't gusting the way it is right now. Get away from those trees. Yeah, as much as I would love to say that, you know, that was skill, that was definitely wind screwing that one up. Let's try it again. We're gonna line it up again.
Harrier flaps.
Stabilize that Harrier. Doing my best to fly in these winds today. It's been a real persistent pain in the butt. Sometimes it just do be like that though. Not much you can do about it. You just gotta either fly or you don't. And I choose to fly. You can tell the wind is atrocious right now because it's slowing the plane down almost to a complete crawl. There we go. How much power we got?
15.2 volts.
15.2 volts under load. That ain't half bad. Yeah, no, so this thing basically has the Timber X wing, so it's kind of got the up and down flaps that go up and down, you know, how flaps do.
Up flaps.
It does have a very gentle stall compared to like the Timber X. It's not as violent. That's probably due to the bigger wing area that it's got.
Full flaps.
Do I like this plane? Absolutely. It's a little bit limited for what I want to do. I can't throw it around as well as I can throw the Timber Evolution. It is still carrying grass with it. That's funny.
Flaps up.
Does it fly slower than the Turbo Evolution? I don't know off the top of my head. I'd say they're actually pretty similar. Almost to the pop top there. Jeez, that wind is just not helping me at all today.
0.5 volts.
Whee! The biggest thing I don't like about this plane is I can't get it to be a high beta knife edge, which for those of you guys who don't know, beta is the side slip angle, so this is beta right now going side to side. High beta would be the nose pointed up very high, like a 45-degree angle. You can get it kinda, but not as good as you can get with the Turbo Timber, or as slow as you can get. Yeah, it just, even with full rudder and a lot of thrust, it was just kind of falling. This plane is heavier significantly. I'd say it's almost twice, 1.5 to twice as much in terms of weight as the Turbo Timber is. That's a consequence of 2 motors, bigger wing, bigger gear, reinforced airframe. All that comes at a cost of wing loading, which I'd say that the wing loading isn't too bad considering the size of the wing. The wing chord is massive on this thing. Look at the size of those wings. I mean, look at that side. Look at how big they are. It does fly a little weird compared to the TTE, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with it. I actually kind of like that the nose got a little bit of damage on it. I mean, this was from what I remember, Horizon had actually tested this plane first, so it was one of the test units, and they already had a couple of gouges on the wing anyway.
5 minutes.
So it just kind of makes it my own, what do you call it, spin on the plane. All right, how much power we got?
14.5 14.6 volts.
14.6 volts. So it's about time to bring it in. Let's bring it in, plop it in. I'll give you guys my thoughts on both planes. We'll do a little bit of extra B-roll footage to compare and contrast them.
Full flap.
And then we'll head out of here. Let you guys make up your minds. All right, lining her up, bringing it in, stalling. I am carrying a big piece of weed with me. This thing probably never had any dreams in its entire life of growing in that field that it would fly around in the air like a bird. Yet there it is, haplessly unaware that it would turn into a plane. Look at this gear, absolutely insane. All right, so let me go ahead and grab the TTE and then we'll go ahead and chat about it. Between both of these planes, obviously, I think you can tell by the flying style and what I did with it that the Timber Evolution is my personal favorite. Now, do I love the Timber Twin? Absolutely. It's a great plane, especially for people who are newer to planes or maybe it'd be their first twin. This could be to you what the Twin Otter was to me when I first started learning how to fly model aircraft. It's very difficult to damage this plane. Even the snoot, as you saw earlier, took a little bit of a hit, but I mean, all it did was smush it up a little bit. Like some hot water, like all you have to do is hit it with some 180 to 190 degree water, and it will completely go back into shape. I actually have, whoop, there goes the little piece of foam that is gonna get glued back in. It'll be like this never even happened, man. It's just foam. You can't really get hung up on it too much. Look at that. Pops back in. You can almost not even tell that it happened at all from a distance. I can see it better in person because I'm right there on the camera to probably, with the white balance and whatnot, it might actually hide some of that. This plane is significantly heavy compared to the TTE. The Timber Evolution feels like a feather in comparison. I mean, this thing weighs almost nothing in comparison to that. That is just 2 motors, extra reinforced gear, heavier servos for sure, because they definitely upgraded them. These are the same quality servos that are in Draco, for example, and that's a massive plane. So for me to throw this thing around the way I'm throwing it around tells you that it's good stuff. I had to pay $60 on the Turbo Timber Evolution to get the same quality servos that are in this now stock. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing more versions of Timbers come with these awesome servos that Twinber's got there, because that thing, that's setting the standard for bind and fly servos at this point. I like the way they look. Motors are great, could use a little bit more thrust. This one has all the thrust in the world on an 11x7 or the 13x4. I choose the 13x4 because I like that low end thrust that I get with the bigger prop. That gives me more authority to throw it around and have more fun with it. So, hopefully you guys have an idea of what these two planes offer you. The gear spring on this one is definitely, it's not as horrible as people like to say. I mean, like if you're breaking these gear, I'm sorry, but unless you got a bad defective unit, you're probably landing this thing like a meteor. And it's not designed to take impacts like that. All aircraft have gear ratings. For example, like most planes don't take side loads. So if they load like this, they're gonna eventually collapse under their own weight. This one doesn't take side loads too well. As you see, it'll collapse under its own weight just like that. That's probably one way you can break them. Slamming it super hard into the ground like a meteor is another way to do that, especially on harder surfaces. Grass will give it a little bit of cushion, but just because it's made out of metal doesn't mean it's indestructible. So you gotta actually finesse your landing sometimes, like stall it into the ground gently. It doesn't take too much effort to do it. There is a landing tutorial that we shot a while back that you guys can reference. It's in the comments too, and that was on a crappy windy day like this. So I mean, if we can do it, anybody can do it with enough practice, because flying is a skill like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you again next time.